I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Texarkana, Arkansas Board of Directors to order. At this time, we'll have the roll call.
Director Roberts.
Here.
Director Harris is absent. Director Hollybush.
Here.
Director Brewer.
Here.
Director Minor.
Here.
Director Hart.
Here.
Mayor Brown.
Here. Couple of housekeeping things. If you wish to address the board tonight during citizens communication time, there's a card on the ledge. If you would get that and get it to our assistant city clerk, that would be beneficial for us. You're not required to fill it out, but it would be helpful for us at the end of the meeting if you want to address the board. Also, if you have your cell phones, if you'll just silence your cell phones, we would appreciate that. This time we'll stand for our invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance given by Director Barbara Minor.
Before we pray, I don't know how many of you knew Tim Carter. Tim was in our street department 36 years, and his day of death was, I think, Friday, and the funeral was today. Tim was highly regarded by me. He never failed me when I called him, and I'm sure that's the case with many, many people. So if you have an extra moment in your mind, in your heart, in your prayer, think about Tim's family, please. Let's pray. Father, it's just with gratitude that we are here, that we can come together, that we can think about friends and family and wish them the best and express sorrow for things that are sorrowing in their lives. Just guide us and direct us as we go about this meeting. Help us to do the right thing, use the knowledge and wisdom that you give us. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. So at this time, we have a couple of presentations. The first presentation will be the City of Texarkana, Arkansas, our Employee Service Awards. We have quite a few of them. We're going back to the 2020 and awarding some. We have 5 or 6 that are here. Our city manager, Jay Ellington, will be presenting those, and I've been asked to read those names and recognize those, and then he will recognize those that we're told that are present here. So in 2020, we have Michael B. Haynes with the Fire Department with 15 years. We have Corey Hensley with TWU, 15 years. Michael Haynes, 15 years with the Fire Department. We have Randy Flowers, 10 years with TWU. Floyd Hayes with 10 years with TWU. Jeffrey Shields, 10 years TWU. Joseph Tyree, 10 years with TWU. And Onmore Webster, 10 years with TWU. If y'all would give those a round of applause for the 2020. In 2021, we have Maxwell Bennett with Public Works for 5 years. Rebecca Edwards with TWU for 5 years. James Mash with TWU for 5 years. Jason Terry, TWU for 5 years. Joel Bullock with TWU for 10 years. Reading both ways. John Cates with TWU for 10 years. Casey Fife with TWU for 10 years. We have Tammy Shomo with TWU for 10 years. Brandon Williams for 10 years with TWU. Tony Barnes, TWU 15 years. Lynn Kilgore with TWU 15 years. Melissa Shaw, TWU 15 years. And Tricia Briggs with TWU for 20 years. Would y'all give them a round of applause? So at this time, recognizing with our district court for 20 years of service, Ms. Joanne Hervey. With TWU for 35 years, Mr. Rick Barton. That guy don't look like he's 35 years old.
That's a long time.
with TWU with 5 years, Brandon Usleton. TWU 10 years, Terry Rogers. And we have with TWU 10 years, Jamal Ward. Thank all of you again for your service to the city. Our next is a presentation of 17 substandard structures to be condemned by the Public Works Department. Director Tyler Richards.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, so the way we classify or pick these structures to recommend for condemnation, we rate them in A1 through A4, A4 being the worst. A4 is either they're burned or completely collapsed. All the ones that you'll see tonight are either in A3 or A4. Most of them are A4. The next one. We've got 1603 Morrison. They actually pulled a demolition permit on this back in April, but it has not been cleaned up yet. The structure is still sitting there on the ground, so we recommend condemnation. You go ahead. They'll still have, we've got another 30-day notice to send out after this, so they'll still have a little bit of time to get that cleaned up. If not, we'll go in and take care of it. 204 Marguerite, tag this. Okay. I got you. Okay. 804 and 806 Nash. This is just one structure. It's just like a little duplex there. We tagged it back in 2017. It's not burned or collapsed, but it does need major repairs. Go ahead. 1402 Betty. This one is in need of major repairs. It was tagged last year. We recommend condemnation on it. 614 Charles. This one burned this year. So we try to take care of all the burned ones as quickly as possible. So that's why you'll see a lot of these are burned. Go ahead. 1505 East Street, tagged it back in 2017. We bumped that classification to A4 once it collapsed. Go ahead. 521 Euclid, tagged in 2019. It is a burned house. Go ahead. 902 Euclid, it is also burned. And 8 Ferguson, this one is actually an A3. We tagged it last year. We've received a massive amount of complaints on this one. That's why we went ahead and brought it. Go ahead. 902 Jackson, this one is collapsed. I don't remember if this one's burned or not. I apologize, but it was tagged in 2018. I don't think this one is burned. Okay. 1007 Jackson, was tagged in 2018. This one has burned since. 839 Laurel, it was tagged this year after it burned. 204 Marguerite, you barely see it there in the picture because of all the overgrowth, but it was tagged in 2017. It's in need of major repair. 2109 Marietta, it collapsed and we tagged it earlier this year. And it's the, I believe they actually pulled a demolition permit on this one as well, but it hasn't come all the way down. If they don't get it within this next 30-day notice, we'll go ahead and take care of it. 221 Martha, it was tagged when it burned earlier this year. 1603 Morrison, this one they have pulled a demolition permit on it back in April, but it is still sitting there right now. They'll have another 30 to 45 days to get that cleaned up before we do. 701 Orleans, this also, they pulled a demolition permit in April when we sent out those notices, but it is still sitting there. 1205 Prince, we tagged it last year. It is completely burned. Go ahead. 2120 Walter, tagged it earlier this year after it collapsed, and that covers it.
Does anybody have any questions for Tyler during the presentation that is on the agenda?
So Tyler, so I'm assuming that once we tag it, we give the owner of the property so long to do it themselves, and then we do it, and we send them a bill, and if they don't pay it, then we put a lien on the property.
Correct, yes, sir.
So my question is, what's the average cost to clean up? And I know it's different depending on the size.
Right.
But what's the average cost, and where are we gonna get this money and this manpower when I've got streets that need to be repaired that we're all pushing you with, right?
Yeah.
When are we gonna have time and the money to do this?
All right, so I'd say average 4,000 or so, and we've started contracting these out. It just takes so much time away from our guys to take care of it, and I'm so short on staff right now as it is. It's very difficult for us to get in there and do it. So that does drive the cost up a little bit, but they're able to get in there real quick and get it taken care of. I've got, I believe it's either 25 or 30,000 in my budget this year to tear these down, and we won't be able to tear down all 17 of these this year. We won't have the money for that. Typically what happens is we'll bring y'all all these structures, and they'll come, maybe half of them or a quarter of them will come in and actually pull demo permits and do it themselves. Last year we ran in, I think we brought y'all 10, and half of them came in and pulled permits and took them down themselves. So we're bringing more to y'all this year. So I'm hoping to get 7 or 8 of them taken down this year.
Cause 17 of them at $4,000 is $68,000.
That's right, yeah. So there's no way I can go in and tear down every single one of these this year. But hopefully some property owners will come forward and take care of them themselves.
So if we put a lien on that property, and do they have so long that they have to where the city can then take over that deed to that property, or is
That's a
it?
question for George there.
The way it's historically done is it's not a lien as much as it is collected like taxes, and it goes on the tax roll. And so when the taxpayer shows up, or the subsequent owner or something shows up to pay the taxes on it, then the city will collect then. Occasionally, even after that happens, somebody shows up and pays, the owner, or someone pays on their behalf, and we release it then and just file that of record. So it's not a lien as you would think of in the sense of a mortgage lien or something like that. It's a little bit different.
Thanks for all you do, Todd.
Yes, sir.
I'm thankful 2 of them are in Ward 1.
Any other questions?
I think that answers my question. It was pretty much in regards to the timeline and the cost parameters.
I got you.
So,
Yeah, we'll have to send out another 30-day notice after this, letting them know that it's been condemned. Then we'll send out a 10-day notice after that, letting them know they need to get all their stuff out of the house, and then we'll be able to tear it down after that. So about 40 days after we send out the initial notice after condemnation. And then actually we'll have to bid it out, so it'll be a few more weeks after that. But
Do we have anyone who's in disagreement with tearing it down? I mean, you know, sometimes we have people who come forth and,
yeah, there
Oh,
may be
don't
there
tear
may
it
be
down.
someone here tonight. I don't know. I'm not sure.
and this has been published, no, it's just by mail to the owner.
Yes, yeah, all these property owners are well notified of all this. They received a 30-day notice before this meeting. So, there are a couple that pulled demolition permits, so, they may be here, I'm not sure, but we'll see.
Any other questions? Okay, moving right along to our consent agenda. We have item number 3, which is approval of the minutes of the regular meeting, June 21st. And we have item number 4, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager into a contract with New Gen Strategies to perform a water and sewer rate study. What's the board's desire on the consent agenda?
Motion to adopt.
Second. So we have a motion and a second to adopt the consent agenda. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And the consent agenda passes. Moving right along to our regular agenda, tonight we're considering the following action concerning the substandard structures: to conduct a public hearing regarding the condemnation of 17 substandard residential structures, adopt a resolution to condemn the 17 substandard structures in which the Public Works Director Tyler Richard has just shown a presentation for. So at this time, we'll open a public hearing regarding the condemnation of the 17 substantial structure, residential structure. Is there anyone here that wishes to address the board pertaining to these structures during the public hearing?
Mayor,
Yes.
I got a question. I guess to Tyler. I noticed that, what is definitely the timeline, well, I get to the point, that, I know on June the 15th, when you had that, meeting up here, and somewhat, basically the same thing, similar thing here, and there was a lady that had came forward about, it was a house on Kirby Street, and I know that house been condemned since 2009 and it's still standing there. How do you get a house like that on a list to be towed down? It's been condemned, but that house been there, and I know it for a fact 2009 because when I went and knocked on her door, she pointed it out to me, and it's still standing there.
Is it condemned or is
Yeah,
it tagged?
it's condemned. It's
The
condemned.
board has condemned it?
Yes.
Okay,
Well,
I'm not-
I don't know 100% sure, but she stated to the fact that it's been like that more than 2009. It's been like that maybe 5 years earlier.
I'm not aware of any condemned structures out there that we.
On Kirby Street.
But
She came here, I think the lady with no relationship to me, I think her last name was Miss Harris. If
Okay.
I could be.
I'll look back in my notes and get back with you, but it may be that it's just tagged.
Yeah.
It may be classified A1 or A2, and we have to get these A3s and A4s first. We've got 150 tag structures right now that could come before y'all to condemn. So there's a ton of them. So we
Yes,
take the worst ones.
I understand that, and then when you do bring it up for us to pay, will you show as to what was used by city fund versus what was used by CBG fund? And CBG means Community Development Grant money, and when you show, if you have a list and you want us to put a lien on there, which I stated in the past, I don't have a problem with the city trying to get its money back, but for us, the federal government money, that's what I kind of have a little issue with, and that may be just me, but, you get money based on low to moderate income person, and then turn around and put a lien, but the lien is a front end, which I don't think everybody really knows that. That meaning that you got to pay that lien off or you pay your property tax. So if they got a $4,000 lien on that house that's towed down, you cannot, unless you come up with the whole $4,000 something to pay your property tax, you can't pay what the normally, if it was normally $200 or $50 or $80, you can't pay that. So just let the public be aware of it. And the city attorney can correct me if I'm wrong on that issue, but it's the liens paid on the front end, not the back end. So
I'm not 100% sure on that,
Okay.
but when we have someone come in and express interest in paying this, but they can't pay it out in full, we work with them.
no, I'm
We'll
talking
take-
about the lien that
Okay,
that the board vote to put on the property that is placed on the front end.
I got you.
And when it's placed on the front end, somebody go and try to pay their property tax, they gonna have to come up with the whole entire amount, $4,000, that the city put the lien on the property. And basically, that person eventually lose the property, and then basically, they just gonna increase y'all work because they not finna cut the grass, so the grass become an issue, even though the house gone. And I'm having that issue with a property owner over there on, Hilltop Road, 1500 block of Hilltop Road, so.
Yeah.
I would just like to bring that out.
Yeah, we come across that issue quite often. When we do pay for these with CDBG funds, I could be wrong, but I believe we have to do that, because if we did not, it would be considered a windfall to
You have
those
to
owners.
report it separately.
Right, yeah. There's some legalities there I'm not 100% sure on, but we tear down what we can with CDBG funds, but it doesn't get very far.
That's all I had to say.
All right.
Anyone else wish to address or comment during the public hearing? Okay, I will declare the public hearing closed and have the city attorney read the resolution.
Whereas the Public Works Department has requested an order to condemn under Section 1187 of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas Code of Ordinances the following property, already addressed and the current owner of record. The legal description information is in the ordinances, in the packages, and available online. 804 and 806 Ash, Joe Glass, 1402 Betty, Myrtle, Formal, 614 Charles, The Considerate Trust, 1505 East, Amanda Marie and James Henry Howard, 521 Euclid, Sergio Campanella, 902 Euclid, Paula Freer, 8 Ferguson, Ben and Pearl Hawkins Donaldson, 902 Jackson, Jose Muntz, and Cheritos. The names are here too, I'm terrible. 1007 Jackson, Leon Collins and Callie Moore, 83839 Laurel Lee White, 204 Marguerite Dwight King, 2109 Marietta Lenny B. Floyd and Emmett D. Ford, 221 Martha James Bertlinger, 1603 Morrison, Mildred Ann Whitaker, 701 Orleans, Crystal Nicole Lee, 1205 Prince, Patricia Lou Smith, 2102 Walter, Crystal Hughes. Whereas the owners of the properties have been notified that the structure on the property is in violation of applicable code, including any applicable violation of the Arkansas Fire Prevention Code and International Property Maintenance Code. But little or no work has been done on the structure and the time allowed has elapsed for the owners to voluntarily bring the structure into code compliance. Whereas the Public Works Department has attempted to notify by certified mail the last owner of record of each property, informing them that the Board of Directors will consider declaring the structure, including all structures on the property, of nuisance. Whereas notice of condemnation will be sent to the owner of record, allowing 30 days to obtain a permit for repairs or a permit to demolish the structure and clear the property, failing which the city will have the right to demolish the structure after giving the property owner at least 10 days in which to remove the personal property. And whereas the city manager and staff recommend approval, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas, that the above properties are condemned under the provisions of 1187 and other applicable sections of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas Code of Ordinances, that the Public Works Department shall provide the owner of record with notices of the condemnation and allow 30 days for repairs or demolition by the property owner, that the Public Works Department is authorized to demolish any of the above described structures that are not repaired or demolished within the 30-day period after giving the owner at least 10 days in which to remove the personal items. Passed and approved the 6th day of July 2021.
So the city attorney's read the resolution. What would be the board's desire to adopt the resolution?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution. Is there any other discussion? Is there anyone that wishes to speak for or against this prior to the board voting? Hearing none, could you call the roll, please?
Director Roberts.
Yes.
Director Harris.
Yes.
Director Pavlovich.
Yes.
Director Brewer.
Yes.
Director Minor.
Yes.
Director Hart.
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes. So the resolution passes. Moving right along, item number 6, to adopt an ordinance to rezone property located at 1925 Lime Ferry Road from M2 General Manufacturing to R3 Low Density Residential. Ms. Beck.
Good evening, Mayor and Directors. As you can see on the PowerPoint, the property is here on Lime Ferry Road. It's addressed as 1925 Lime Ferry, and it has a structure on it that was a meeting place for the Shriners charity. And at some point, they found that that building was kind of really unnecessary to maintain, as they just meet usually at restaurants to take care of their business. And so they sold it, and the property owner now would like to develop that as a single-family residence. It was zoned M2, general manufacturing, as was the two adjacent parcels. I think it probably was rezoned I know it was rezoned when we did our comprehensive plan in 1988. In probably viewing the metal building, they felt like this area was probably some type of industrial use. Anyway, it's well served by city water and sewer. It has a fire hydrant it's about 220 feet from the site. We did not receive any objections. We notified 19 property owners, and we asked the applicant, and he attempted to contact one of the owners, the adjacent parcels, to see if they wanted to join this petition and have their property rezoned so that down the road it would not be an obstacle to them if they decided to do something financial with that property due to the zoning. At the Planning Commission meeting, they voted to recommend to you approval of this rezoning, and there was 6 members present. There was no opposition, and they have passed along to you their recommendation for approval.
Okay.
I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any additional questions for Ms. Beck?
Mr. Blair, I had a couple of people ask me questions about it, which I'm very familiar where that property's located. I've actually been to a few garage sales there in the past. Yes.
Yeah.
Are you going to rehab the building that's presently there?
Yes, the building is 1,000 square feet. It'll be a perfect tiny home for me and my wife to downsize. It's a steel building built around 1980. On a slab, has water, all utilities. Once the zoning is once it's rezoned as single family, everything around me is single family, or is family. So how it ended up manufacturing, because the Shriners, we didn't do any manufacturing, so we don't know how it got zoned that way, but we didn't really care at the time. So I own it. They sold it to me, and the only thing that I really need to do, assuming you accept the single family or the R3, is to get a permit. And to get a permit, I need I have to have a structural engineer out there to make sure that the building is safe. Other than that, we're on go. I'll just have to wait. I understand there's a 30-day moratorium afterwards. So,
Mary, if he wanted to, build a carport or something, would he have any type of trouble going forward, or would he be able to do, what he needed to do with the property to make it his home?
Right, following the rezoning, if it's approved, he is free to develop it as a residence and, under the regulation.
All right.
the only issue that we have is that the building is on the back of the property line, but it's 10 foot. So effectively, I can't, city rules basically say that you have to stay 10 feet from the property line for anything. So I wouldn't be able to build anything behind, but everything that I do will be permitted and inspected. So I will be adding a carport, and then we'll be adding on the north side of the building a little bit.
Well, we'd be
Other than
happy
that,
to have you in Ward 1.
sir?
Be happy to have you in Ward 1.
Well, I've been with Mr. Brewer for several years, so I'm bailing out on him. I'm coming down to you, so
There you go.
I appreciate
Well,
your
thank you.
consideration. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Any other questions? not, what would be the desire of the board to have the ordinance read on its first reading tonight?
I make a motion that make the reading in abbreviated form, please.
Second.
So a motion and a second to have the ordinance read on its first reading. Is there any other discussion? Would you call the roll, please?
Director Roberts,
Yes.
Director Harris,
Yes.
Director Pavlovich,
Yes.
Director Brewer,
Yes.
Director Meyer,
Yes.
Director Hart,
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
An ordinance amending ordinance number K 286 is amended and for other purposes.
So the ordinance has been read on its first reading. What would be the desire of the board to have it read on its second reading tonight?
Motion to read, for it to be read in its second form.
So we have a motion and a second to have it read on its second reading in abbreviated form. Is there any other discussion? Yes. Who was the second? Oh,
I'll second.
Brewer. So we have a motion and a second to have it read on its second reading in abbreviated form. Is there any other discussion? Could you call the roll, please?
Director Roberts,
Yes.
Director Harris,
Yes.
Director Pavlovich,
Yes.
Director Brewer,
Yes.
Director Meyer,
Yes.
Director Hart,
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
An ordinance amending ordinance number K 286 is amended and for other purposes.
So the ordinance has been read on its second reading. What would be the desire of the board to have it read on its third and final reading tonight?
Motion for a third reading, abbreviated form?
Second.
Motion and second to have it read on its third reading tonight. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll, please?
Director Roberts,
Yes.
Director Harris,
Yes.
Director Pavlovich,
Yes.
Director Brewer,
Yes.
Director Meyer,
Yes.
Director Hart,
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes. So the, were you gonna read it on third?
Oh, and ordinance amending ordinance number K 286 is amended and for other purposes.
So the ordinance has been read on its third and final reading. What would be the desire of the board to have this ordinance adopted?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
So a motion and a second to adopt. Is there any other discussion? Prior to the board voting, is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address the board either for or against this ordinance? Seeing and hearing none, could you call the roll, please?
Director Roberts,
Yes.
Director Harris,
Yes.
Director Pavlovich,
Yes.
Director Brewer,
Yes.
Director Meyer,
Yes.
Director Hart,
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes. So the ordinance passes.
Congratulations.
All right. So moving right along to item number 7, to adopt ordinance to rezone property located at 2620 Jefferson Avenue from R2 Single Family Residential to R3 Low Density Residential. Ms. Beck.
Hello again. The property, actual 2620 as the applicant's residence, and they have acquired the property behind them. And it's composed of several lots of Fairview Edition is the subdivision there. And as you can see, it's undeveloped. It had a lot of platted right-of-way in it. Undeveloped Florida Street came up through here, and there were alleys through blocks 2 and 4 that were recently abandoned. I say recently I guess it's been about 4 or 5 years. Time flies. But anyway, the surrounding zoning and the property zoning is R2, which is single-family residential. There's water and sewer in Jefferson and partway down 26th Street. So there would need to be a little bit of an extension to the property for that. I believe the fire hydrant is located about 650 feet from the property, so with development, there would have to be an addition of a fire hydrant within about 250 feet. There was one person at the meeting who opposed the application, and it was her she lives here on Tyler Lane, and right here at the corner of the street, there's some erosion, and the street is deteriorated. It's not very wide here. So she had concerns over anything, not the rezoning in particular, but any type of development at this location. The Harveys just want to put 1 or 2 duplexes, so for retirement income. They would have to address some other issues, and the Planning Commission considered all of that, and they recommended 5-1 for approval. There was a commissioner that was opposed to the rezoning. But I think Mrs. Harvey's here, and she can address any questions you might have, or I'd be happy to answer any other concerns or questions that you might have.
Mary, I would just be interested to know that, I served on the planning commission with Boots several
Yes.
times, and Boots did vote no. What was his opposition for voting no? I mean, he's very well versed on the city and the planning commission and board of adjustments and all that. I was just curious as to see.
He didn't say specifically. He has stated several times that he doesn't think duplexes are a good housing choice.
I mean, he don't vote no, so he's very seldom.
Yeah, and I think the concern about the issues that the property owners would have to deal with, as far as they are gonna have some challenges, but they've expressed their willingness to meet those challenges as they come along and deal with them one at a time,
Okay.
so.
Any other questions of Ms. Beck?
With that being R3 low density, how many houses could they put there?
Well, if they had access, they could put as many houses as there are lots, single-family houses. Now, duplexes, I really haven't done the math on that, but I would say probably, just based on what you can see up there, there's one, this is a R3 zone right here. It's kind of hard to tell with the lighting, but this is a duplex here. So if you look at the size of this property and kind of mentally transpose that over here, I would say, what, 2, 4, 5. You could probably do maybe 15 if there was a road constructed. 27th Street, up here is a platted right-of-way that has enough width, if it were developed, where you could actually build along the right-of-way without building streets within this larger area. But that would only allow for the ones that were immediately adjacent to the right-of-way. So maybe 4 or 5 duplexes could be built there if they built a street. But that's a significant expense for a few duplexes. So they're just looking at 1 or 2. Of course, who knows in the world of unexpected consequences and possibilities, what could happen.
Okay. Any other questions?
You said Miss Harvey's here.
Yes, sir.
Miss Harvey, you mind coming up?
Good evening.
Good evening, Miss Harvey. Can you tell us what your plans are for that piece of property?
Well, basically to do a couple of duplexes, one for retirement purposes to have an income for my husband when he retires, and secondly for my elderly mother. So she'd have some place to live because our residence is a 2-story.
Is it adjacent to this property right here?
It's right in front, right
in
on
front.
Jefferson, yes.
So you're only gonna put 2 duplexes on the property?
Yes, yes.
So are you 1401 or 1309? What's your?
2620 Jefferson.
I'm sorry.
2620 Jefferson.
Oh, okay, got it. I'm Jefferson.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Farmer.
Thank you.
All right, without any other discussion, what would be the board's desire to have the ordinance read on its first reading?
I'll make a motion that first reading in abbreviated form, please.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to have the ordinance read on its first reading in abbreviated form. Is there any other discussion? Could you call the roll, please?
Director Roberts.
Yes.
Director Harris.
Yes.
Director Palovich.
Yes.
Director Brewer.
Yes.
Director Minor.
Yes.
Director Hart.
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
An ordinance amending ordinance number K 286 is amended and for other purposes.
So the ordinance has been read on its first reading. What would be the desire of the board to have it read on its second reading tonight?
Motion to read it on second, abbreviated form.
Second.
Motion and a second to have the ordinance read on its second reading. Is there any other discussion? Could you call the roll, please?
Director Roberts.
Yes.
Director Harris.
Yes.
Director Palovich.
Yes.
Director Brewer.
Yes.
Director Minor.
Yes.
Director Hart.
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
An ordinance amending ordinance number K 286 is amended and for other purposes.
So the ordinance has been read on its second reading. What would the desire of the board to have it read on its third and final reading tonight?
Third and final reading, abbreviated form, please.
Second.
Motion and a second to have it read on its third and final reading tonight. Is there any other discussion? Could you call the roll, please?
Director Roberts.
Yes.
Director Harris.
Yes.
Director Palovich.
Yes.
Director Brewer.
Yes.
Director Minor.
Yes.
Director Hart.
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
An ordinance amending ordinance number K 286 is amended and for other purposes.
So the ordinance has been read on its third and final reading. What would be the desire of the board to adopt this ordinance?
Motion
tonight?
to adopt.
Second.
So a motion and a second to adopt. Is there any other discussion? Prior to the board voting to adopt, is there anyone here that wishes to address the board pertaining to this ordinance? Seeing and hearing none, could you call the roll, please?
Director Roberts.
Yes.
Director Harris.
Yes.
Director Palovich.
Yes.
Director Brewer.
Yes.
Director Minor.
Yes.
Director Hart.
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes. So the ordinance is adopted. So moving right along to item number 8, to adopt an ordinance to purchase kennels for the new Animal Care and Adoption Center. Ms. Brenda Williamson.
Good evening. We've received a quote from Direct Animal Services to manufacture our kennels. I've got some pictures of what they're going to look like, so I can have an idea. This is kind of before. We have a part of the funds left over from the loan that we got, but we need an additional $45,000 to come from the donation that we got to be able to get these specific kennels. We chose these because they have the glass fronted doors. They're less like a jail or a cage and more homey. We're trying to create an atmosphere of people wanting to come adopt where it's not depressing and stuff, because right now, people aren't really coming because they think it's depressing. You know, all we do is kill dogs and stuff, and that's not what we want to portray. And this new center that we have is not like that. So that's why we want to get these kennels.
I just have just one question. Is I was in on the forefront and helped kind of ramrod the animal shelter loan and oversaw the financing, helped oversee the finance of that. And I was wondering, Tyler, why we were $40-something thousand off for these different kennels than what we planned in the beginning, or, you know, I know we have the money to pay for it, that's not the issue, but we kind of just misjudged, we're spending double.
Yeah. The kennels changed between directors. Charles Wilkie originally picked some out, and then the next director wanted something different, so I'm not really sure. I believe the quote that Mr. Loki got was somewhere around $60,000, I believe.
Thank God for our donation.
Where are we now?
How many kennels are we,
They're 36.
36?
Yes, sir.
And that additional amount was how much?
$45,000.
45.
Yeah, the total is 82,000.
82.
82,000 was the quote.
Now, this is pertaining to the old
No,
building.
this is new.
No, this is the new one,
This is
yes.
The glass kennel's going in the new.
In the new
kennel
adoption
facility.
center.
Well, are we gonna okay, gotcha.
We are going to refurbish the old building
Right,
too.
that's what I.
Yeah,
Oh,
but we won't have these kennels in there. These will go in the adoption center.
Ms. Brenda, on like, the picture here where it says after direct, simple painting the block wall and upgrading to a new door gave this facility a stunning new facelift. This is what we are getting. It's not, if you wanted to paint it again, that would be fine, but the doors
Right.
remain the same.
Yes, the doors is really what we're getting. On the second page of that is what our kennels are going to look like. They're going to be stainless steel sides with bars on the sides, yeah.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Hearing none, what would be the desire of the board to have the ordinance read on its first reading?
Motion to read its first reading, abbreviated.
Second.
So a motion and a second to have the ordinance read on its first reading tonight. Is there any other discussion? Could you call the roll, please?
Director Roberts,
Yes.
Director Harris,
Yes.
Director Palovich,
Yes.
Director Brewer,
Yes.
Director Minor,
yes,
Director Hart,
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
An ordinance waiving competitive bidding, authorizing the city manager to approve the purchase of kennels for installation in the new animal care and adoption center, for declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
The ordinance has been read on its first reading. What would be the desire of the board to have it read on its second reading tonight?
read the ordinance on second reading in abbreviated form, please.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to have it read on its second reading. Is there any other discussion? Could you call the roll, please?
Director Roberts,
Yes.
Director Harris,
Yes.
Director Palovich,
Yes.
Director Brewer,
Yes.
Director Minor,
Yes,
Director Hart,
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
An ordinance waiving competitive bidding, authorizing the city manager to approve the purchase of kennels for installation in the new animal care and adoption center, for declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
So the ordinance has been read on its second reading. What would be the desire of the board to have it read on its third and final reading?
Third and final reading in abbreviated form, please.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to have it read on its third and final reading. Is there any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Director Roberts,
Yes.
Director Harris,
Yes.
Director Palovich,
Yes.
Director Brewer,
Yes.
Director Minor,
yes,
Director Hart,
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes.
An ordinance waiving competitive bidding, authorizing the city manager to approve the purchase of kennels for installation in the new animal care and adoption center, for declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
So the ordinance has been read on its third and final reading. What would be the desire of the board to have it, the motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
second,
So we have a motion and a second to adopt. Is there any other discussion? Prior to the board voting, is there anyone here that wishes to speak for or against this ordinance prior to adoption? Hearing and seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Director Roberts,
Yes.
Director Harris,
Yes.
Director Palovich,
Yes.
Director Brewer,
Yes.
Director Minor,
yes,
Director Hart,
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Yes. And the ordinance is adopted. So moving right along into our citizens' communication time, is there anyone here that wishes to address the board tonight pertaining to our citizens' communication time? Yes, sir. Come forward, please.
I don't know if I need to make the appointment to come back or what. I've got a shop on 71, and they've come through and told us we ought to move all of our cars. And I don't really understand, we've never had a problem. And we do have a large amount of cars, but we're moving about 30 to 40 a month. But they come today and told us we're going to drop down to like 10 to 15 cars on the property, and there's no way I can work 5 guys with 10 to 15 cars. So I don't know what I need to do or who I need to see to take care of it.
We can just get somebody from Public Works to contact you and set an appointment up. And
Well, they've been by the shop 4 times.
who is it?
The state once and the city 3 times.
sir, who from, I'm not supposed to converse with you.
But, I mean, we've had a business 74 years.
74 years.
Yeah. But yeah, I just don't know what we need to do.
And state your name, please, name of your shop, too.
Freeman's. Yeah. It's on 2007 East Street.
Yeah.
All right, we'll look into it, thank you.
Okay.
All right, is there anyone else that wishes to address the board? Yes, sir.
I just would like to introduce somebody that many of y'all probably haven't met yet. Christine, if you would stand up. This is Christine Barron. She is the, she's not new to me, she's been at Bi-State for quite a long time, but she is the new building maintenance manager. She is fantastic and has done a lot of positive improvements, very friendly, outgoing, anything that you ask within reason, you get. And if you haven't met her, I definitely encourage you to meet her. She's a fantastic person.
She's great.
I see you again.
Anything else?
I'd just like to say, I want to thank Tyler. Tyler right now in Public Works, they're short a lot of folks, and they've got a lot of requests from all the directors. And I would just like to say that I appreciate the outstanding job you do, Tyler, because I know you're under a tough spot right now with as many openings as you have. And I think you're doing an outstanding job of juggling all the ward directors. I know we're all on you, but I just want to tell you that publicly, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right, any other discussion? Any
I'm
other
sorry.
business? Yes,
I
ma'am.
have one request. Well, one thing I have is a praise for people who keep their lawns. I mean, the grass is growing wildly. I know that. We've had a lot of rain and just beginning our sprinkler systems. But thank you for making your house and your lawn look pretty. And I love it when lawns are mowed, but I don't love it when the clippings are thrown into the street. We actually have an ordinance. I've reminded a lot of people when they were throwing clippings into the street, I said, you know, there's a city ordinance against that. I mean, it stops up our gutters, our drains, and it contributes more to our problem with the water drainage. So can you please not throw clippings into the street? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I just have a question for the council. Do I need to come up? Stand right here.
You can stand right there.
We live at we live on East Side Drive. I want to ask the council, the bridge, the Arkansas Bridge, we live right down from the bridge. That's East Side Drive. It's all grown up. I have pictures. Are we to call the state highway every time the bridge needs cutting like we've been doing? Mr. Taylor and I, we live on that street. It's just 5 to 6 houses on that street. Now, are we to call the state every time the bridge needs cutting? Is that our responsibility as the citizens on that street?
Tyler can answer that for you, Ms. Dixon.
Pardon me?
Tyler can answer that for you through Public Works.
Yes, ma'am. I'll get with you after this, okay?
Okay.
Thank you again, Tyler.
You know, I think we have lights out on the Arkansas Viaduct. Which one? Which side?
I'll find it.
North side, east side, south side we're working.
Any other discussion? Anybody wish to address the board?
Loaded on you.
Okay, at this time, the board will convene an executive session to consider some appointments to the Historic District Commission.